Guys, gals, and film freaks, thanks for clicking on my face again. Sunday has become my new favorite day of the week. I just finished watching episode 3 of HBO's The Last of Us. Let's talk about it. Like always, no spoilers first for those who are still going to watch it. This is a hard episode to discuss without spoilers, but I'll try. The Last of Us episode 3, much like the last two, is still beautifully crafted. It's well written, it's well directed, it's excellently shot. This episode also features a lot of truly deep and excellent performances. I do believe, however, this is going to be the most polarizing episode so far. This episode takes the biggest departure from the game so far, braving new uncharted territory, which some people are going to love and some people are really going to hate. It's definitely worth watching still, especially if you watch thus far, but I can't really explain too much what I mean without going into spoilers. So let's do that. Keep saying this, but I was really excited for this week's episode as it was introducing the fan favorite, Bill. Everyone and their dog was not only satisfied, but thrilled with Nick Offerman's casting. But how did it pan out? They made some really bold choices in this episode with Bill's character that honestly didn't really work for me, but might for some others. This is not the Bill we know and love. There are similarities, like with the traps and his paranoia and just the physical appearance, but they end there. This episode is really going to divide people. I can see it already. Bill's sequence is absolutely nothing like the game. Instead, we flash back to the beginning of the outbreak and see just how Bill survived so long, and I loved this sequence. This part was very Bill, but also just very fascinating how he went about this. Basically, he hides and waits for his hometown to be fully evacuated. Then he just takes over the whole damn thing, making like a Billtopia of sorts, and it's awesome. Another major change is the character of Frank is actually introduced this time. Now, as I was watching, I thought this was going to be a brief flashback, then move on with the game's story, where Bill helps Joel and Ellie, we find Frank dead, and then that epic high school sequence. It's an entirely new story. The episode plays out Frank and Bill's life together for the next 20 years, and though be it slow, it's beautiful and it's heartbreaking. One of the biggest gripes I believe fans will have right away is that Bill dies in the flashback sequence. That's right, he's not in the main storyline at all, which is a bummer, but that's not why I have an issue with this episode. My issue with this episode is it feels like filler. It is overly long, drawn out, and honestly pointless to the overall story. I know a lot of gamers will disagree, thinking we are getting this heartbreaking backstory to a fan favorite character, but looking at it as its own medium, which it is, from the perspective of someone who hasn't played the game, which a lot of viewers haven't, how did this episode progress the story at all? It's just a character study, which is fine, but you should have some purpose in an episodic story. Hear me out. The whole purpose of a flashback is to answer burning questions or add some extra depth to things that we have seen or we're about to see. This flashback does neither of those things. Again, think of this from the perspective of someone who hasn't played the game. It's like when people watch movies without reading the books, it's its own medium and it has to stand on its own 2 feet that way. See, for new viewers not knowing Bill in advance, they aren't wondering how Joel met this guy because they don't know that he has yet. It isn't answering any questions that the show has specifically set up. Now, with that said, what does it do to contribute to the Joel and Ellie storyline? Nothing. Without the scene, it's already well established in the show that Joel has connections, that he smuggles things in and out, and that he knows the world and how it works. We didn't need any of the flashback to tell us that. But what I believe really renders this whole bit narratively pointless is the fact that Bill died. If Bill had survived and we got to see how this backstory affected him in the Joel and Ellie storyline, that would entirely change things. But why have a backstory for a character that doesn't contribute anything to the main story? The talk show scene in episode 1 explained how screwed we would be with this fungus infection. Indonesian doctor scene explains how and when the virus started spreading. But what does the Bill flashback explain for the main story? Nothing. It's solely for fans of the game to go like, ooh, which I did. I'll show you an example. If you cut here, let's say crossfade right to the scene of them arriving at the gate, and then continue to the finale, you lose no information. You learn who Bill is through the letter and Joel's reaction and just the world around him. Seeing Ellie and Joel search this place tells us everything the flashback did in less time. We learn he's a doomsday prep. We learn he and Joel had a unique scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of relationship. We learned he died with a lover. We learned about all the traps in this 10-minute scene with Joel and Ellie. The dragged out flashback added nothing to the show except fan service. Now, I sound like I'm being harsh, but I'm just trying to be unbiased. The sequence is well done. Nick Offerman is amazing. We just didn't need it. It could have been cut way down. If you don't believe me, watch Up. The opening scene of Up is this sequence just shortened. We don't need to see Bill getting his dick sucked. We don't need to see him eating strawberries with his lover. We don't need to see them arguing about house paint and lawnmowers. Aside from the 10 minutes with Joel and Ellie, I just found this episode did nothing to progress the story. And even then, Joel and Ellie's progression is minimal. We do get some excellent bonding scenes with them, and again, Bella Ramsey just shines here, but she's truly, truly fantastic as Ellie. Next week, we'll kick it up a notch, at least according to the trailer, but unfortunately, I found this week's episode just left me wanting more. What do you guys think? Did you watch the episode? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think that I'm just some big dummy who needs to delete his YouTube channel? Someone told me that. If you think that, comment below and let me know. I'm not going to do it, but let me know. Thanks for clicking on the video, guys. And for everyone who supported my last two videos, they're doing quite well. Much appreciation. The Batman one is going through a little hell with YouTube guidelines and copyright, but it got a lot of support and I'm very, very appreciative. If you guys do like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, share with a friend. Anything helps. Thank you so much.